Hey guys, it's Mike, and it is Sunday morning. The movie's officially been out for 2 days, and I'm ready to talk the Masters of the Universe movie and give you all the spoilers. This is your warning. If you're watching this video and you haven't seen the movie, what are you doing here? Go see the damn movie. Yeah, let's get this thing started. All right, guys, thank you again so much for tuning in. Let's get into it. First off, that score, huh? How about that freaking sound? Like, you hear that, the movie starts even before it goes off. You're seeing the Mattel logo, and you're seeing the Amazon, and it's playing that song, and ooh, you just get the hype going already. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. This is about to be an adventure. And when it opens up, and it opens up on that scene, and you're hearing Adam kind of talk about Eternia, and it shows the planet, and you're flying in. And to quote Mega J Retro, I think he's quoted it really well. It has that never-ending story kind of feel where you're flying over, right? And it's that fantasy. All of a sudden, a dragon comes at you. I've had a few people tell me they think that's Granomir. That's up for interpretation. I mean, I've seen the thing 6 times. Yes, Granomir looks different in Revolution and Revelation, so could it be him? Sure. Hey, why not, right? But I don't know. It's unconfirmed. Really, only Travis Knight and some of the actors, I'm sure, could probably tell you. But it is definitely a dragon, and there are lots of dragons in Masters Universe and Eternia. So, yeah, if it's Gradomir, maybe. And then he starts talking about Eternia being the heart of the universe, and the heart of the heart is Castle Grayskull, and the heart of the heart of the heart, and some funny jokes in there. Some people take it as cheesy. I thought it was. I mean, when you come to the realization that he's talking to a hinge date, and it's just his words, right? Like, he's what, 20-something-year-old trying to talk to an Earthling when he's an Eternian, and he's trying to explain his home planet, and he's talking about the power and how the power sword, and he's like, yeah, that's what they call it, was just the power sword, and the guy's gonna use it awesomely. So when you put that into context, I mean, it had me smiling, because it was like, I try to picture myself, trying to explain to a person if I were from another planet, and the fact that he does, right? He's explaining to this girl that he's not from Earth, like, not going to go over so well, guy. So then the movie leads off with a young Prince Adam and the Queen, and Prince Adam's telling her that he doesn't want to go to arms training, that he feels he's small and he has poor hand-eye coordination. She's like, who says such things? And then, of course, baby Cringer's there, and he confirms it. And even Cringer doesn't want to play with him. He's like, no, I'll find a ball of yarn. You go. And then all of a sudden you get treated to your first Easter egg, which was really cool to see. And I've seen it online. I'm going to put a little picture here. Hopefully it'll work. I'm going to put in a picture. You can see Rainbow Warrior helmet in the background as Queen Marlena is talking to Adam. And that was really cool to see. Again, like, right off the bat, you're getting these nods to the deep cuts from the original cartoon. And yeah, it cuts to the arms training. You see Man-at-Arms. You see all the kids. My first complaint, and it's a small one, is Man-at-Arms cussing. I wasn't, first time I saw it, it didn't really bother me. I went to the premiere and didn't see it, but it was probably like the second or third time I was like, kind of seemed unnecessary for him to say asses so many times. But when I watched it for like the fifth and sixth time, I started to understand. Think of Man-at-Arms as like a sailor, right? Or like a military guy. Those guys cuss all the time. Like, they cuss like a sailor, right? So it made sense for him to be that kind of way. He's very cocky. He's never really lost a fight, which is why when, later on we see him fight and he fails, right? It was such a big deal, and why he became a broken man for the time when Adam went to Earth, is he felt he failed. after never really losing before. And yeah, when you see young Adam, I kind of again put myself in his shoes where, I was that skinny kid. I wasn't that small, but I was very skinny and like would play around when you're supposed to be serious kind of thing. And he's over here, hit me. Like I can totally see myself doing that kind of stuff. And yeah, then we get our first shot of King Randor. Oh man, he looks so good. Um, I just happen to have the figure right here. Like color scheme. Of course, he's wearing the armor. He's dressed as if he's gonna be heading out to a battle soon, which that was kind of interesting to see. And then he attacks his son, right? Not attacks his son, but he wants to give his son a lesson. And by throwing the sword to him and saying, all right, I want you to defend yourself with this. And they sword fight, and he's like, this world's not for the weak. Now say it. And he's like, this world's no place for the weak. And that's basically the mantra of Eternia, right? This world is no place for the weak. So then after the arms training, right, Adam's humiliated. He runs off. Teela goes and chases him down. They have a short dialogue. And they look and they go, and Teela's like, is that the sorceress? And all of a sudden, bam, we're hit with our first battle. And man, you're seeing Fright Fighters. You're seeing Rotons. We're starting to see everything. King Randor comes and starts looking out the palace. Man-at-Arms runs up. He's like, we're under attack. And, oh, man, all of a sudden the villains, boom, you're seeing Beastman. You're seeing Spikor. You're seeing Karg. Like, a lot of the villains, basically. I think even Goatman might have been there. I've seen this thing so many times, and I tend to forget all this stuff already. But anyway, they all come walking in, right? And just epic entrances. Here's the thing. If you're not familiar with Masters Universe, you're just like, oh, these are monsters. But, as monsters, you can tell they're kind of bad, right? And we're seeing battles go on. And then, bam, we get our first shot of Ram Man jumping up and exploding out bad guys. We see Mechanic whipping around his neck. And then we see Fisto, and Fisto comes up, and this is all, we've seen these in the trailer, so it's really cool to see just on the big screen. They start taking off, and Man-at-Arms is protecting them as they're going through the palace, and all these guards get shot down. Man-at-Arms starts taking them all on one, takes all down the Skelenites, and then around the corner comes Trapjaw. And I don't know if you guys have seen that little gif of Stewie on the couch going all like this, right? And I'll put that here too, just like, ooh, like, oh my God. Sam Wilson as Trapjaw was probably my favorite part of this movie. He absolutely crushed it. His voice, weak little palace boys. And oh, man, that battle right there it just sets the tone for me, at least. It set the tone for like, okay, this is gonna be badass. It's some of my favorite characters. It's Man-at-Arms versus Trapjaw fighting on a big screen right now. How can you not love that if you're a fan? So, I get some people said it was like, oh, it's cheesy. No, I just didn't get that feeling. There were very small cheesy parts. But again, after the battle, Man-at-Arms fails, jumps out of the window with Teela, and I'm hoping into the water, right? I don't even know. They just don't even show that. And then you're having the royal family run towards Grayskull. They get intercepted. All of a sudden, boom, we see Skeletor the first time. And again, Jared Leto crushed it. I love his version of Skeletor. I thought he did it so well. He's like, oh, it was I, lurking in the shadows. I lurked. It was me lurking. And then, Karg and Spikor holding Randor back, and the sword right in the face. That was so good. And then we see Evelyn. And this was another minor thing that just didn't really land with me. Was Allison's Brie's lines. And she's like, basically, poetry. Like the way she said poetry and the way she said all her lines, honestly, in the beginning, it was really weird. After Skeletor chokes her later, because you've all watched this since you're watching this, right? When he chokes her later, and all of a sudden they go to Grayskull, I thought she played that part really well. When she was fighting Teela, that was done really well. But yeah, just the lines in the beginning, I just couldn't get behind. They just sounded forced and just not natural. When we see them get into Grayskull and Skeletor comes, Sorceress tells Adam to grab it. Another kind of missed thing is he's holding the sword. Here, I have a... Check this out. Yeah, I got the drink sword, right? He holds the sword, and all of a sudden you see the lightning kind of come through. And my guess is that is when she chose him as the vessel, right? Because the power went from the sword into him. You see it like go up into his arms. And then she tells him to go. And, Queen Marlena says, take him to where they won't find him, which is, of course, her home, Earth. And he jumps through. And he's spinning with the sword, and bam, the sword breaks free. And then he lands, and we end up, and we find out, of course, he's on that hinge date. And I literally laughed really hard, probably too hard, when I see the girl goes, I'm sorry, did you say Skeletor? I was busting up. And he's like, yeah, I did. And then he tries to explain the power again by pouring the Coke, and she's like, yeah, I gotta go. And he looks up, she's gone. He goes home, and again, I think it's really funny. They show the dude watching The Notebook, and he's crying, what's up, brother? Gets all like, wants to be macho, right? And telling him like, wow, you even talked about the king, saying you're not masculine enough. And he's like, yeah, I should have left that out. Which, again, would I have rather it not gone to Earth? But it made sense for the story. He's hiding from Skeletor and everything like that. So it made sense for the story. Then he goes to the gym, right? And this was another part that was just, felt like it was fan service. It was really, really done well. I really, when you see Dolph, like my theater a couple times just started cheering like crazy. Him going, you're in my spot. It's like, if you know, you know, right? And he's like, you're taking my spot. And then he asks, oh, any advice for the new guy? And it's just basically like, hey, I'm the new He-Man. You're the old He-Man. You have any advice? Which he's like, you got to back yourself. The front's a facade, but if you back yourself, anything's possible. And he's like, cool. Really cool. And again, I started cracking up at that. I think that was a well said line. Like, wait, what? He's like, can you run that by me one more time? And he's like, no, that's all you get. Which again was like kind of a dick move, but it was like so perfect. And then him doing, of course, the good journey, right? So good. And you see like a little half smile. He's like, which of course, a little fourth wall break, right? Like the movie's self-aware. And I really like that actually about it. And so after the gym, when he goes home, and he's like looking at all his pictures, the Ram Man is historical. I cracked up at that. I thought that was great. And when he goes to work the next day and he says, they're sitting there and he's like, I have the power to be the best version of myself. And it's like, again, I have the power. It's a play on that. I thought that was really clever. And then the nameplate saying Adam Glenn, which Glenn, of course, is Marlena's last name, right? So he is familiar with that last name. And then it's saying he/him, which, again, people are upset. There's like a wokeness there. I didn't feel that at all. I thought it was a funny joke because it's like he, him, as opposed to he, man. So that's the way I interpreted it. And I was laughing. Even when they showed that in the trailer, it's again, making fun of itself. So I really enjoyed that. Him searching for swords and his boss, like, yeah, if sword stuff and nerd things is your deal, like, that's cool, but yeah, I'm gonna have to fire you if you're looking for weapons on the clock. And he gets the text, and the slow hand, like, that was cracking me up too. It was done. She's like, oh, okay, you did it. Yep, you did it. And he sees that text saying that they found the sword. Um, Again, big unanswered questions like who raised him. I probably would have liked to know that. Some people told me the movie's too long. I mean, it could have been done with a simple, his roommate, right, sitting there and like, well, your therapist said that your parents got killed tragically, and you're blocking it out with this fantasy. Like maybe just adding a line of like, well, your parents were killed, so you had to live with your aunt and uncle, or you had to live with, or you were in an orphanage, something like that would have just brief explanation of, how he ended up in school, how he ended up being able to get a job. Like, I don't know. I felt like one more line explaining who raised him would have been helpful. But again, very minor, right? And the other unanswered question that really got me. So when he shows up at the Fright Zone, again, another nod, right? Hordak Layers, the Fright Zone. Thought that was really cool, really clever. And that scene cracked me up. Like he goes up and he's like, hey, hey. Or the one where he's through the glass. he's got through the D-top, right? And he's like, I can't even do it. There you go. There you go. Like, huh? And he's like, you got my sword? And the guy's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like, okay, who is that guy? And then why does he just like, you didn't see me? Like, what is that? So that cracked me up. I'm like, okay, well, who is this guy? Is everyone saying it's Orko in disguise, right? It was Orko that showed him the way. Maybe. Again, another thing that's like unconfirmed, only Travis Knight would know. And yeah, it was a funny scene when he falls and he pulls over Torak and Torak falls. And talk about Easter eggs. That whole, I could sit here and probably spend another 5 minutes of Easter eggs, but you got Big Jim in there, right? There was a Thor Ragnarok, the Hulk in there I saw. There was a Lino in there. There's all kinds of just old toys from Mattel all over that place. Of course, Torak is Mark Taylor, right? That's his first design. Before He-Man was Torak. And the fact that they made him look like Vicor, I actually posted on Instagram, like, I'm sure Mark Taylor probably wouldn't have liked that, like Torak looking like Vicor. But, I thought it was really well done. He falls over with Torak on top of him. My wife and I were both cracking up when the dude starts filming him, and he's like pulling like this, trying to pull it out. And he's like, oh, you're going to see me blast off in a ray of light. And the guy's like, cool. That guy cracked me up. And then, of course, he's like, take me home. And it didn't work. That was really funny too. And he's like, Grayskull, take me home. And then he gets home, right, with the sword. And another Easter egg, when he looks at the picture of his dad, look next to the picture of his dad, it's a picture of Manny Faces. So Manny Faces is confirmed, guys. Let's get a sequel and get Manny Faces in there. So yeah, he remembers Manny Faces too. And then of course he falls asleep with the sword. Next morning he is rudely awoken by 2 cops that come to arrest him. Shout out to my friend Raul SoCal Shaolin. He actually cracked me up because he's like, man, there wasn't even a cage in the cop car, and they didn't even handcuff him. Like, he literally could have just strangled the cops from the back seat, or taken the sword and jumped out, broke out like he did. So I was like, that's true. I didn't even notice. I watched it like 3 times already, and I didn't even notice that. So shout out to SoCal. Like, there's no way that they would have had a cop car with no back cage or anything, and him not even handcuffed. So that was very weird. But the Beastman scene was fantastic. I actually wish it went longer. I was really enjoying that. And, obviously they wanted to get off Earth as quick as possible, but I would have loved some more kind of running through the streets, fighting. Every time he was about to attack, it seemed like something happened to him. He gets hit by that Amazon again, produced by Amazon. So only fair that he gets hit by an Amazon truck. But the way he's like pulling at the ship, I was cracking up at the fact that he's like, I told you, and he starts yelling at everybody that's just filming, and he's like, well, not you specifically, but you represent a lot of people in my life that think I'm crazy. So that's such a perfect reaction. Like, I would have had the same reaction too if I was from another planet. No one believed me. Um, and obviously they take off, and we get our Thor Ragnarok like Rainbow Bridge looking thing, right? And they head back to Eternia. There's a really funny little scene there with Adam like staring at her, and it's like, I can't believe it's you, telling her that she's grown and gotten bigger, right, and all this stuff. And she's just like, wow, okay. Taking it out of context, of course. And then they get back, and it's all just blown to bits. And Tila takes him to their little underground hideout. We get our first shot of Moss Man. He looks so good. All the heroes. And that's when he starts telling them about Ram Man and Fisto. And again, a lot of people were upset by the fact that the silly names were like laughed at, right? Now, again, if you know the lore, Fisto's real name isn't Fisto, it's Malcolm. And so the other heroes, I'd probably have to look this up, but I know Ram Man has a real name too. And, for sake of time, I'm not going to go do all that. But look it up. I know Fisto's name was Malcolm. I remember that. And so if he's over there and he's like, Fisto, when you imagine hearing that, and you're like, what? My name's Malcolm. He's like, well, I know that's not your real name, but you fist people. And again, the sexual innuendo jokes didn't bother me. It bothered some people. I found them funny. There were a couple that didn't land, but very minimal. And then Dion throws him in the dungeon, and we got our first shot of Drunken, right? They call him Drunken, which was great too. And then that scene played out. It was all right. Roboto, Kristen Wiig didn't do a bad job. I just it felt unnecessary to change it to a woman's voice or make Roboto a female in the first place. It would have been, they literally could have just left it alone and just had it be a normal guy robot. But it is what it is. I don't know if there's some sort of we have all these guys, let's try to get more women heroes. Well, how can we get more women heroes? Let's change Roboto to a woman. Of course, Skeletor finds them. There's a battle going on, and they start running, and we finally get to the scene where it's Adam, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna start a dialogue like I'd mentioned before. And Tila's like, a dialogue? Again, super just masculine, right? Talking feelings doesn't exist really in Eternia. It's, you're either fighting or you're just in this state of peace, right? Either you're war or peace. That's it. There's no emotions very much going on other than the father-daughter love kind of there, right? Because Modern Arms talks about protecting people a little bit later. But to get back to that scene, absolutely loved it. Again, Trapjaw comes out, and he's like, Mr. Trapjaw, I'd love to talk. And so then they fight, and they say use the sword. We get the zoom in the eye, and the sorceress telling him, by the power of Grayskull. And he holds it up, and Trapjaw is looking like, what the heck is going on? And then we see the transformation, and talk about goosebumps. The crowd was cheering. I had my drink sword. I'm holding it aloft. We're just such a great scene. Absolutely loved it. One of the things in that scene though that did take me away. So he turns into He-Man. There's a little bit of a brawl. He punches Trapjaw, right? And then he goes, was that really necessary? It's He-Man. So shouldn't hurt his hand. That was only one. Again, these are minor things that I think I would have changed. You don't need that in there. Nah, he just punches him. I don't think he needs to go, And then they run. I really laughed at the fact he's like, did you see that? I ripped that guy's arm off and shot all his friends. And then Man at Arms like, yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Cracked me up. And of course, the chase then pursues. I love the fact that he's like in the ship and facing off with Skeletor, but as that's right before, right? And then they take off. So this is kind of where the movie slowed down for me a little bit. Even though it is action, the flying scene where they're being chased and the crashing afterwards, movie kind of slowed down there. It's like if you have to do a bathroom break, it's probably the best time to go to the bathroom break right there. Of course, the scene, there's great chemistry with Tila and He-Man. You know, they're getting, so he's like, oh, I've been thinking about you. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've been thinking about you. Yeah, me too. You're my friend. And then it's like, what? Man-at-Arms being a drinker. I get it. It's because he's supposed to have been a broken man after failing, after losing to Trapjaw. Didn't, like, I would have not done that if I'd made the movie, but it didn't, like, take away from it. And then also, I did, I really did like, though, where Man-at-Arms is talking to him about, you know, if someone's attacking your family, what are you going to do? And He-Man goes, well, I'm going to fight him, right? Is that what you're going to? He says, no, you're going to protect him. It's like, look, the poets don't show up. It's the freaking man with the muscle. And he's not doing it for glory. He's doing it because he wants to see his kids see another morning. And again, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's hard to describe. Those words just hit hard. Like, yeah, that's exactly kind of why I can see Man-at-Arms the way he is. He's trying to protect Tila. And even later in the film when he says, I'd rather her see me a drunk than an old man not worth shit, basically. So it's understandable. Then, of course, probably one of my favorite scenes is kind of a nod to the 87. Skeletor just has a giant hologram, I guess you would call it, right? That's overseeing all of Eternia. Very much like the 87 film when it's Skeletor's head over all of Eternia. And when he says, he's like, and you were buttworms beneath me. And Man-at-Arms is like, buttworms? He's called us buttworms. That cracked me up. I was dying. Jared Leto again played that part so well. You know, very Skeletor-esque, very like Alan Oppenheimer-y, kind of like, oh, mommy and daddy are alive and well. He's like, well, not well, but alive. So I loved that part. Then they go off to Snake Mountain. Some great, again, visuals as you're heading into Snake Mountain. And when they get to Snake Mountain, they're greeted by Goatman, which, again, was awesome to see. When Goatman approaches, he tells him to give him the sword. He won't give it to him. Evelyn comes up. Actually didn't mind Alison Brie in this part. You know, she's like, oh, those gorgeous muscles take to Skeletor. So, you know, that seemed more like an Evelyn line, and it didn't seem as forced. So it seemed like, I don't know, I'm sure they didn't film it in order, but it felt like she was kind of getting into the role later in the film. So I don't really know how that worked out as far as like the order they filmed, but it felt like the later half, she actually was really doing well, but in the beginning, it just didn't land right. But yeah, when they take off, we see Gygor inside of Snake Mountain. There's a ton of little Easter eggs with this. There's, oh man, what the heck is the name of the guy? No. And we see a bunch of different skeletons, which is really cool. I'm sure those are Easter eggs. I wouldn't be able to tell you who they are, but there's a bunch of different ones. And we get into Skeletor's throne room, and they're right there at the mouth of the snake. And bam, it's He-Man, and he sees his dad. Of course, you know, Skeletor tricks him, traps him. All the bad guys show up. Another great fight. And yeah, they start to fight. He-Man basically beats everybody, and then Skeletor's like, all right, my turn. And then Evelyn froze him, right? And then he shoots the thing. So he kind of like killed his own dad, which is kind of messed up, right? He shoots the sword, and everything falls on top of King Randor. And I actually, again, like, people didn't find this emotional. I found it kind of emotional. You know, I love King Randor. I call myself Eternian royalty, for Christ's sake. You know, it sucks to see Randor freaking die like that. And you see He-Man saying, like, I need you to hear it. Now, what does he need him to hear? Does he need to hear say, I love you? That's kind of what I took it as, because he didn't even get to say it. So that was like depressing, super depressing. And then Skeletor going, and so you both shall submit. Or you both submit, right? Bam, knocks him out. We see Adam, after being thrown in the dungeon, reuniting with his mom, which was really emotional. The reuniting with Cringer, which was kind of funny. Like, the first lines out of Cringer is, can I lick you now? Like, I thought it would have been, like, I can't believe you're here. Can I lick you now? So that was kind of funny to see. It was like, wow, the first thing you're going to ask is licking him? And then we see Skeletor with the sword, right? And I'm like, oh man, here we go. You know, I've seen Revolution. I've seen a God Skeletor. We've seen the 87 movie. We know. And he's like, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. Yeah, yeah. And I start cracking up at that. I was like, oh man, they ain't gonna let him change. And it's because the sword doesn't have the power. Adam has the power. Again, foreshadowing, right? And then Evelyn's like, maybe once more with feeling. He's like, don't test me, woman. That cracked me up. The battle seminar, that was cracked me up. Him coming up with the plan to break out, and you know, again, when they finally do break out, all of a sudden they're coughing, and like freaking Fisto ended up like dry heaving and spitting up, and a lot of people were like, oh, it's Stinkor. Up for interpretation again. You hear Teela, I believe, or Dion say, oh man, it's so dusty. So is it just all the dust that came back up? Or was there something more there that they just had off screen? Again, unconfirmed. Only probably Travis Knight, maybe some of the actors would know. That would be something I would love to ask, because it's weird that dust would make them like puke like that, right? That seems like something that would be Stinkor. But of course, the Princes of the Universe by Queen comes on. Another one where I'm wondering if it's just coughing over dust, it felt unnecessary. But if it was supposed to be Stinkor, then it's like, okay, I get that. There's a little spot where they could have fit that in, and it's Stinkor. But if it was just dust, it seemed like such an epic moment to have it cut off by that, and then just going right back into it where they fight. And it would have just been better to just have them actually walk out and then fight. I didn't feel the dust would be necessary unless it was Stinkor. So that's my hope, is actually it is Stinkor, because why else would Fisto cough up and spit up like that if it was just dust? Who knows? And then of course we get back to Grayskull. They start all battling again. Adam and Teela and Man-at-Arms have a nice little moment, which is very awkward, with the whole fist bump missing and then the high five missing. The other second cuss portion was Teela calling Cringer pussy. I felt like it was unnecessary. I felt like she should have said pussy cat, not just pussy. But again, the more I saw it, I understood she's the daughter of Man-at-Arms. So this is how she grew up. She's the daughter of a cursing like a sailor dude. So she curses like a sailor herself. She never left Eternia to kind of soften up, right? So she's got that very masculine traits to her as well. And yeah, when I first saw it a couple times, I was like, such a weird line. I get that we're trying to say he's weak, but pussy, like, whoa. But my wife, actually, she really liked that. She's like, yeah, women should be able to curse just like that too. And so, yeah, there you go. But when they get in there, you see Battle Cat fighting Beastman, you see Evelyn fighting Teela, and Adam fighting Skeletor until the sword breaks, right? And then he takes him onto Earth. I actually really enjoyed that part. I love when the fact, he's a gym bro, and he throws him, and then he's in the date. And she's like, oh, you ever seen Sedona? It's like comparing Sedona to Eternia. Yeah. And then the best one was when he's like, I was out conquering a planet while you were, he's like, what is this place? He's like, human resources. He's like, human resources. Oh, Adam, you naughty boy. And then, of course, more sexual innuendos, right? He's like, oh, you're the barbarian with the sword between those glorious thighs. Like, what? But I really like that he's like, that part was, I don't know. It's just Skeletor being Skeletor, right? Like, of course, it's the freaking, that's how He-Man was. There was like gay innuendos all over the place. So it is what it is. Doesn't mean it's bad. I don't know why people think that that's such a bad thing. Like, that's how it was. Go back and watch the freaking Filmation cartoon. um, yeah, and then when he finally stabs him, and then the sorcerer shows up, says that he's the one with the power, and I said, okay, here we go. So this is very like revelation style, where it's like Adam actually has the power, not the sword. He's the conduit, which I mentioned before. Like, we see the transfer happen back when he was a kid. Although I thought it was strange because in Revelation, without the sword, and he transforms, right? He turns into this like crazy barbarian. Of course, we don't see that here. He does have the sword. It rebuilds itself. He turns into He-Man, starts kicking Skeletor's ass. I loved that fight scene. I love the fact that he tried to talk to him at first, because again, it's Adam. We have to understand this is an origin story. He's still not fully He-Man, right? He's learning his powers. He was holding back. He didn't want to have to use the power. He just wants Skeletor to stop. So the fact that Skeletor's like, yeah, you can't change me. There's nothing. And then he calls him you boob, which I loved. And you muscle-bound milk toast. Like, Jared Leto just, killing it with the freaking Skeletor insults. So good. And then, of course, we see him use the Thunder Punch. I felt like that was like a representation of the Thunder Punch, when his fist glows and smacks him. And he blows up the freaking Havoc staff. And that music again hits. And we see the Filmation versions of themselves. The laughing, the ha 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 ha. I was dying for that. Teela looking like the Filmation Teela was great. Them laughing at the name He-Man. It's a funny name when you think about it, So it's like, yeah, it's a masculine man. So it's like, cracked me up. And of course, we see Roboto, and she comes up. She's got her clear chest now. Looks more like the toy back in the day. Thought that was cool. And she gets a distress signal from Avion, which is like, oh, so are we setting up a sequel with Stratos? Yes, please. And he goes running off. He tells Cringer, come on, and they take off. And like, obviously it feels like it's kind of leading into the Filmation cartoon, because that's when he starts pretending to have the secret. Like, he thinks only they know, right? Only Man-at-Arms and Orko know. But they all know. They just like pretend that, okay, sure, let him do his thing. And bam, we get the PSA from Orko that if you got a skull for a face, you're pretty much the bad guy. We see a little Easter egg, a merman back there. That's been going around the internet quite a bit. And then we get the post-credit scene where she says, man, I miss, I forget the exact words. Again, I see this 6 times and I'm like not even remembering lines. She goes, man, I miss, no. And then we get the mid-credit scene where it's Queen Marlena and Man-at-Arms, and Man-at-Arms is telling her like, oh, maybe she'll come back to us. And boom, we see the Sword of Protection, and it's coming down, and we're seeing the transformation kind of happen. And a guy comes up, and he's like, Force Captain Adora, and she does a little half turn and goes, no, not anymore. So, does that mean they're going to change the lore for how she becomes She-Ra? Is that just kind of setting up the fact that she exists in this universe? That's kind of how I took it. I think that, they'll probably, if they do a sequel, kind of take it back and show how she got the sword and how she turns into She-Ra. I don't feel like that would do any sort of justice if they were to just start with her already having the sword and everything. Like, give us some backstory there. Again, that's if we get a sequel. And then, of course, there's the post-credit scene where it's just Skeletor's head, And Evelyn comes up and just like, boy, you've looked better, and walks off and goes to black, and we hear Skeletor's laugh. So he's still alive. So again, if we get a sequel, we'll probably see Skeletor, we'll probably see Hordak, and I just would absolutely kill to see that dynamic. I really hope Jared Leto would come back as Skeletor. You know, apparently he's been very upset with just how the marketing's been for this, being that he's not been able to participate. So I can almost guarantee we're probably going to see someone else as Skeletor next time around. But that being said, I think they can find someone that can portray it pretty close. It's really just the voice, trying to get the voice as close as possible, because everything else was, you know, a suit and CGI. So there you have it, guys. Thank you for sticking around. If you stuck around for this long in this video, I don't even know what to say. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I can tell you Motuniverse is going to happen for 2027. We're trying to get some actors there from the movie. We're going to be celebrating that 1 year anniversary for that, the 40 for the 87. And yeah, go see this movie. Go see it again. If you're watching this and you didn't listen to me in the beginning, so go see it again. Like I said, I've seen it 6 times. I might go see it again in IMAX just to see it again in that format. And yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It didn't change after 6 times. The things I was talking about, they're so minor. I don't feel like it was worth knocking off more than 1 point. You know, it had me smiling. That's a weird smile. From beginning to end. So thank you, guys. And we're waving.